Hello everybody, welcome to Rachel's classroom. In this video we will be discussing cost of retained earnings. So retained earnings is nothing but the accumulated amount of undistributed profits that actually belongs to the shareholders. Retained earnings actually provide a major source of finance for expansion and diversification of projects. Their cost is basically opportunity cost, because had the company decided to distribute the profits to its shareholders, the shareholders would have reinvested it into the company by buying extra shares. Uh, so the cost of retained earnings is the same as the cost of equity capital. But in the case of retained earnings, this does not involve the payment of tax as well as flotation cost, so which makes the cost of retained earnings slightly lower than the cost of equity capital. So how do we calculate cost of retained earnings? Uh, we find the cost of equity, deduct the tax on the equity and the brokerage from it, then we get cost of retained earnings. We have an alternate method also. KR is cost of retained earnings is equal to cost of equity into 1 minus tax into 1 by 1 minus brokerage. Let's see a couple of sums to understand this concept better. The first problem is a company has an annual profit of rupees 50,000 and the required rate of return of the shareholders is 10%. It is further expected that the shareholders will have to incur 3% brokerage cost of the dividends received and invested by them for making new investments. Find the cost of retained earnings to the firm given that the tax rate applicable to shareholders is 30%. So here you have tax, then you have brokerage. So we are ready to find the cost of retained earnings. So the required rate of return is nothing but the cost of equity. So cost of equity is 10%, 0.10 into 1 minus tax is 30%, 0.3 into 1 minus 0.03 is your 3% brokerage. Therefore, the cost of retained earnings is 6.79%. Let's see one more problem. A company has the following data: equity share capital of 25 lakhs. It is made of 2,50,000 shares of rupees 10. The profit after tax is 22 lakhs 50,000. The current market price is 120. Again, there are two scenarios. You have to find the cost of equity capital and then you have to find the cost of retained earnings if the average tax rate is 40% and the brokerage is 2%. Let's proceed to solve this problem. First situation, we use the earnings per share divided by market price formula to find the cost of equity. To find earnings per share, we divide the profit given, profit after tax, divided by the number of shares. So the EPS is 9 rupees and the market price is 120. So the cost of equity is 7.5%. So keeping this, let's try to solve the second part of the problem. So we know that cost of equity is 7.5%, tax is 40% and brokerage is 2%. So substitute it to the formula of equity into 1 minus T into 1 minus brokerage. So the cost of retained earnings is 4.41%. Thank you.